Okay, hey, I'm gonna respond to this video. I'm not really doing that many videos right now. I'm just kind of like chilling, doing stuff around the house. But I'm gonna do this video. So, and this irks me a lot because I remember this guy, Rhett and Link, when he was doing the What's in the Bible, with my little girls at the time when I was becoming a crazy Christian. And I remember them doing they had a little bit in the What's in the Bible DVD series, done by the guy who's now a progressive Christian, who did the Veggie Tales, whatever his name is. I really thought What's in the Bible was pretty cool for kids and for me too, learning. And they had a bit there where they did a musical bit, and that was I assume one of their beginning ministries. So in this little bit here, I'm just going to paraphrase. So the atheist here asked him, what was your start? Well, it sounds to me like Rhett and Link were cultural Christians in the sense that they were born into it, raised in it, and then they were going to do a ministry. And the way he talks, though, right now, I mean, he's an atheist now, but the way he talks now, and I'm a Calvinist, so he was always an atheist in my view. But the way he talks now, it's very weird. It's not like a Christian. He talks, in remembering that his ministry, he doesn't say Jesus, doesn't say anything like that. He just says, yeah, we were going to do a ministry, we were going to do this and that, we were going to do good works. So that's what he says here. And to me, I always notice atheists who are ex-Christians, which I don't believe in, but anyway, I'm using the vernacular of today. But as an ex-Christian, I always hear atheists say what works they've done. They never talk about their own faith, their own love of the Lord and personal relationship. They always talk about their works when they, oh yeah, I was a good Christian. I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. I did Jesus camp. That's the way they talk. And it's like, it's not a Christian, So that's my response to this first part. I'm going to go through each part. I'm going to actually just listen to it myself, and then I'm going to just paraphrase it on here just to go quickly with it. Yeah, so he just said that he wasn't a deep theology. He kind of pick and choose the best of what he liked, and that to me is another sign that he's always never been a Christian. He's always, the culture of Christianity was fine for him. He took the best parts of it, used it for what he wanted, for his purpose. For him to be an entertainer, him and Rhett or Link to do their entertainment and go on to what they really wanted to do. Christianity to them was just a stepping stone, whether they knew it or not. That's kind of the way it sounds to me, the way he's describing it. Okay, the intersection of science and faith. The book he was given, which to me is like, oh yeah, Hugh Ross. Hugh Ross is someone who I somewhat despise, in a loving sense. Because he and another guy he mentions, Francis Collins. Hugh Ross and Francis Collins are Christians. I mean, I don't know what their actual thing is, but they are very detrimental to, I believe, the Bible and its inerrancy. They undermine the Bible with evolution and think that they're compromising the Word of God, creation science, and creation science is just the study of the Word of God through science. Through creation of the world and historical science. But Hugh Ross and Francis Collins, which he mentions later, are two that became Christian or whatever through their science, but then continually used evolution, pushed millions of years. And so right there is the seed planted in him to see that he is like, thinks that the Bible may be a lie, Christian science may be a lie, all the people that he listened to may be lying. So to me, as a Calvinist, if you're not of God, you're going to look for an excuse, a reason to jump away from this faith. I mean, it's going to be that easy because you were never of the faith. You were never of God's children. And he's going to bring that up too, where Calvinism is something that he really found offensive. And then they always bring up a sappy little example. I've kind of watched a bit of this. But they bring up an example of like, a mother and a son, and the son becomes Christian, but the mother who's also loving, why doesn't she get to be a Christian? Because she's not chosen. And I'm like, well, she was an abortionist, and she aborted 4 kids before that, and just had one son out of convenience. And like they bring up like these emotional tags that make you feel a certain way, but they're not reasonable because. I've heard this before from atheists. What about the little old lady down the street? Why does she got to go to hell? She didn't do anything wrong because she didn't believe in Jesus. Oh, you mean the little old lady who supports the abortion clinic and funds them money and then spits on anyone along the street that, I mean, you know what I mean? That's like the example. They use an example of like the little old lady, the mother. And yet they don't use the example of, well, gee, maybe they're not so nice of an old lady. So that really annoys me when they do that kind of example. That's just pulling emotional strings, which is ridiculous because I can just pull them right back. And you should too. As soon as they say that little old lady, the one that runs the abortion clinic and kills babies every, 230 babies a week at the abortion clinic that she runs. You talking about that little old lady? Just throw that back in their face. Anyway, so let me kind of just keep responding to his stuff here. But yeah, the Hugh Ross, I forgot to respond more to that. He brings. All right, I did respond to it. All right, let me move on. Okay, so he reiterates his simple view of creation science versus evolution, and that he thinks that evolution, back when he was in the cultural environment, he said he didn't think much more than that the evolutionists were liars, and he didn't really go in to study it. So then he studies Hugh Ross, he studies Francis Collins, gets his mind blown. But I don't hear him studying actual creation science. I know that he had some there and he was surrounded by it, but did he go deep into creation science? Because I don't think he did. He went deep into the theistic evolution, which led him to then evolution. But I don't know if he says he read I'll see here, I'll watch the rest of this. He read Hugh Ross, which is against creation science, which is, I'm sure a thick book. He read Francis Collins, thick book on it. But did he go read any of the thick books that Christian scientists are doing now? And by the way, Christian science is a very young field, actually, in this whole thing, because evolution has been around 150, 200 years. Creation science has only been around the last, I know 1980s or so, Walt Brown did a really thorough book on it, but that was, in the black market, unknown to most. But I think around 2000 is when really things started to explode after Kent Hovind's amazing debate with 25 scientists across universities. And then ever since that, no one will debate evolutionists will not debate creation scientists. I mean, that's the general warning to them all. Never to take creation science seriously, which is ridiculous. Science is science. But that was because Kent Hovind went around and destroyed them all in his debates in the 90s. And they're on YouTube, Kent Hovind debates or something like that. But they're old videos. They're bad quality, but amazing videos where he destroys scientists from all these universities. But then the word spread, no more debating creation scientists. All right, so let's move. His sort of perfunctory sort of view of Christianity, and then he deep dives into all the atheist or agnostic or gray area Christians who muddle the waters and muddle the Bible. I find just annoying. I find of course you're proving Calvinism right again. You're proving it to me when you do that. He's sort of okay with the Christianity and the Baptist and the Calvinism. He's sort of okay with it in a light way, but then he deep dives into the atheist, theistic evolution, which leads to atheism. And God is letting him have that exit. God is letting every non-believer have an exit. They have an exit from the Garden of Eden by just defying God any way you want. And evolution is obviously that ticket for many atheists. That gives them the comfort to get away from God and his morals and his judgment. And that's obviously what he glammed onto. So I'm just, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed because I remember seeing his growth and my daughter's watching his shows and enjoying it. And then Mythical Morning, my daughter watched it religiously. And I noticed too, then when they were Christians still, he hadn't come out yet as atheist, that, they had 1 million subscribers. They had 2 million subscribers. They had 3 million subscribers. There was no gospel. There was no ministry, gospel, faith, anything. It was just all secular, fun, light. And I talked to my daughter about it. So what do you think? Because we're becoming Christians. And she goes, yeah, it's fun. I don't think it's any Christianity. He goes, no, not really. They just, they just don't swear. They don't do hosts. I'm like, man, they have this platform with millions and they just don't talk about Christ in it. I guess, and they're Christians, and there's a few times there, and along the way they kept getting attacked in the sense of people wanting to, and these are secularists, the left, based on what I've been seeing, wanting them to come out with admit their Christian or whatever in interviews, and they never wanted to talk about it, right? They wanted, and I'm like, well, there you go. If you don't want to talk about it while you're here, and then when you get to the point where you're untouchable, you then say, oh yeah, we're atheists. I'm just like, wow. I never saw them. I saw them in the Bible series, What's in the Bible, when they were younger. But as soon as they got out to LA and Hollywood and started becoming very successful, I never saw any Christian thing from them, from their shows, from their music videos, nothing Christian at all. It's all cultural, all secular. So to me, that was like, at least they're family friendly, so I let my daughter watch it, but there was nothing. So, look at me. This used to be a D&D channel. I used to do scores for all the popular settings, the campaigns, and I was getting a lot of hits, a lot of views. That's where I still today, I make my most views and hits from my D&D scores. But I gave it up. I gave it up because I want to serve the Lord, and now I'm listing. I'm in the doldrums or whatever on this YouTube channel, which is fine. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm not complaining, but I pretty quickly, realized I wanted to be a Christian. I wanted everything I do and say to be for Christ. Whether I succeed or not, I don't care. I don't care if I succeed at this or not. I really don't. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the Lord. I don't care if the Lord blesses me in this endeavor or not. I'm already totally blessed in my life, so I'm not going to complain anymore like I kind of used to. I wake up every morning trying to decide what I want to do. So for each day. And a lot of it has to do with my wife and my daughters and just, doing stuff for them. But, and then of course doing something for the Lord. And I guess, he did answer my prayers. I didn't realize it, but they're answered. I literally wake up every morning. What am I going to do today? That's what I have to work with. Okay. Anyway. Yes, my wife works her butt off. She's a fashion director. She does love what she does. So there's that. Okay. Let me move on. Okay, he just says he was, he's a young earth creationist, but he wasn't staunch, didn't study it hardcore. And then he says, but I picked up a book by Hugh Ross. Well, why are you picking up a book by Hugh Ross? Why don't you pick up a book with, Ken Ham or one of his scientists at the Answers in Genesis? Why don't you pick up one of their thick books? Or the one called Rate, R-A-T-E, where these creation scientists, it's a whole book of technical data, thick. I did not read it, but I read about it. But it's a whole book about the dating methods and how they're all corrupted and wrong and blah 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 and misconstruing. And it took us like over 100 years to realize that they were lying about the dating methods. They're lying about the numbers. They're using whatever numbers they want. Now we creation scientists are now exposing that. The universities and stuff will not allow us to expose that. They're coming out with little responses to that. Whatever. A bunch of lies. They still think that the dinosaur flesh that they find in fossils today, they still think that lasts 60 million years. It's stretchable, it's cartilage, it's blood cells. In the very inner core of the fossilized bones, they think that, oh yeah, that's 65 million, 100 million years old, easily. They think that. Do you really believe that actual tissue? Now, we creation scientists are astounded that it lasted 4,500 years. We're astounded at that. But do you believe it lasted 20,000 years? Still, encased in this fossilized encasing. 4,500 years is what we believe, Christian scientists, and we're astounded that it's still there. Still DNA, still, not alive, but still readable, still detectable. They are claiming that's not 50,000 years old, not 75,000 years old, not 150,000 years old. They want that 65 million years number, 100 million years number, because it makes no sense. It's beyond what we can even answer. It's like saying, oh, but God did it. Oh, millions of years ago. Same thing, religion. Okay, all right, don't get me started. All right, let me do the next thing. Okay. Hugh Ross is an astronomer, and he's talking about how Hugh Ross, is fighting that the universe is very, very old, millions and millions of years old. And he's saying, well, that's probably right, and that's so it's got to be true. No, it does not have to be true. First off, I got it from an atheist astronomer who said we know about 5% of astronomy. Well, what do we even think? So right there, they know 5%, which just means they don't know anything. They're just looking at this vast. Now, I believe the universe could be 15 million or billion, or not million, billion years expansive. But they know we don't know the true speed of light there and back. We don't know time dilation. We know that the Earth, the universe, the known universe is expanding. And by the way, this astronomer that he's talking about, those astronomers believe in multi-universes. You know why they believe in that? Because the theory of evolution and the chance of life forming in this universe they realized was ridiculously too small. So they created multiverses to answer that. Well, we're just one of multiverses because we know that there's no freaking chance that life can actually form unless there was even a bigger number beyond what we can even understand. That's where multiverses came from a scientist in evolution who panicked, and they started to realize the chance of life forming randomly was so impossible. It was bigger than the amount of atoms in the known universe. So if you can't get more impossible than that. That's why they came with the multiverse. It's so pathetic. And so him saying, this astronomer guy believes in the old universe or old age universe. First off, let me just say some simple things here about our solar system, just locally. All the planets are leaking heat. They're radiating heat. In other words, they have not cooled yet. So, and they're not getting more heat in. They're getting less heat in, far away from the sun, whatever. So they're all releasing heat, meaning that they are not that old, because a planet that is old would be cold and dead, in a sense, because it has already released all its heat. I don't know if it's dead, but cold. But we know now that all the planets. We also know that our atmosphere, or that our moon is receding, is leaving us, and that is within less than a million years. It would be so far out that we would be wobbling, and everyone would die. The moon actually keeps our gravitational even, like it actually equilibriums us, which is pretty amazing. And it actually mixes our oceans with the tides, which is pretty amazing. It's like an aquarium. If it didn't do that, the ocean would be dead, like dead. The mixing of it is what helps keep it alive, and that's the moon. Is that amazing or what? So if that moon got any further away within 100,000 years, or whatever, also if you reverse it, it would be so close that we'd be dying all the time with tides or whatever, or with earthquakes and everything else, and be wobbling, which would be extreme weather conditions, like hundreds of degrees of differences. So stuff like that gives us the clue that this has got to be a young solar system and a young universe. The whole galaxies have spirals, right? They all have spirals. That's like when you mix chocolate and vanilla, you're gonna have a spiral for a few turns. Then after that, it all goes into a certain color. That's what we see. We see a spiral, like the universe. The galaxies have only spun one turn, or one. You know what I mean? So that's 6,000 years. They're going super fast, by the way, and they've only turned barely, not even once yet. And of course they explain all these weird, there's a whole gravitational pull that does it all, and we don't see it, or comets are super young. They're ice melting, and we believe creationists believe they came from the earth probably during the global flood, because of the fountains of the deep exploded. We believe a lot of that may have gone into in our solar system, because they know that these ice crystals cannot form on their own out there. There's no water out there. They have to come from a planet that has water, that creates ice, and they're coming around through us every so often, how many ever there are. But they're melting. They're melting, and they're like less than 100,000 years old. So there's no way they could have come from anywhere else. We don't know where they came from. So they created the Oort cloud, which is some sort of invisible Oort cloud of comets out there that we've never seen. That's their solution. Not provable at all, but they said, there's got to be some comets out there somewhere, which there aren't. So anyway, there's just all these like things that we know about the Earth. We know about the gravitational fields. We know about the earthomagnetic field. We know about all this stuff that we know means a young solar system, and stuff about the galaxy, a young galaxy that they don't want to talk about. The speed of light is not constant. It changes. Time dilation is not constant. It changes. None of that is being talked about anymore. They just want to talk about, we measured it based on what we have today in our evolution laboratories, and that's exactly what it is. And that's a crock. But I don't know if he's a wicked person or not, like unsaved or not. I'm assuming he is based on just what he's saying. He could have another bounce back, just in his journey. I don't know, but I'm just going to assume based on what he's saying, he's not a Christian. Thusly, he never was a Christian. He never believed in Jesus. I just don't see it in any of his works. He took jobs for the betterment of himself and his entertainment, and never for the betterment of the church or for Christ. He never did anything in his work to me to show that he was pursuing Christ. I mean, he started off with what's in the Bible, but obviously him and even Phil Fisher, the guy who did it, VeggieTales guy, both are, that guy went progressive and wacko and anti-Trump, and then, which I don't mind if you're critical of Trump, that's fine, but to be just anti-Trump all the time and attack him all the time is ridiculous. It's progressive Christian, which I'm not into. Not. All right, let me move on from that. His astronomy thing here. Go on to the next thing. Okay, so I'm just kind of going into the weeds here with this. He's talking about, Hugh Ross was saying that there were special creations of series of millennias or eons of it with the fossil record and all that, and that's absurd. The fossil record is something that I, just really get into. I want to bring up, these books here that I love from a scientist, and he, Dr. Carl Warner. You can get these on his site. This one is the best primer even for kids. It's like a textbook, very pictorial. I did an interview on my channel. If you want to look up Dr. Carl Warner or the museums, but just a lot of stuff about, and he basically exposes all the frauds. They're fraudulent. He exposes in here how the modern day creatures are mixed in with dinosaur fossils, modern day, and they're all throughout, and he exposes it because they did not know he was a creation scientist. He's just a scientist to them, so they let him in to document their fossil drawers, and he's proving that all these modern animals are in with the dinosaur fossils. The museum, and it's in one of these books, the museum said, he asked, why don't you just have these creatures in with the diorama of the dinosaurs? And they said, we don't want them to be confused. Confused by what? Well, because of the dinosaurs are millions and millions of years old. We don't want to put modern animals in there that we found with them, all this, buried alive in some mud, local flood somewhere maybe. We don't want to put them in there because it'll confuse people to think that they might have been together at the same time. Also in this one, look at that. He exposes their fraudulent use of bones to claim that there are, that these are there's an evolution of ape to man. This is a whole. Why doesn't Rhett do a deep dive into this? Why does he do a deep dive into stuff that's against creation science and against the Bible? Why doesn't he just do it, be an open guy, do both? I used to be an evolutionist. I used to be an atheist. I used to be a Democrat. I used to be an abortionist. I was 100%. I voted D every time I went and I went, even when I was at UCLA being a fine art painter, crazy drunkard, chain smoking, or Pall Mall, non-filter, jeton smoking, crazy fool, going to goth clubs and industrial hardcore clubs in downtown. I still managed to get to the election or go vote D, just D. I don't care. I didn't even pay attention. I was told to vote D. That's all I did. I went Democrat. Done. I'm gonna go get drunk now. I did not think about it because I was told not to think about it. I was told to hate the white, racist, rich Republicans. That was what I was taught in high school. Were you? I'm curious. Were you? Because that's all I knew. Oh, I gotta turn that on. All right, let me move on because I was really just trying to relax this week, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, just chilling. Anyway, all right, let me move on. Yikes! Just some. Oops. Let me switch over to this. I'm just showing you where I stopped the video, kind of, not that you need to watch it. I'm just paraphrasing here because I don't know if I'm going to get dinged by this or whatever. I just want to just jump into it and not sit here and listen to them that much. But fools to me. These guys are fools. I understand. They're successful. They're of the world. They get the world. They get this world. I don't care about them. I'm not qualified to be a pastor. People that I fall in love with or respect, are people that become Christians. Just like Russell Brand is a good example. Like, I hated that guy. The guy was wicked, blah, blah, blah. Then he became Christian. I'm like, dang, really? Wow. Now I'm intrigued. Anyway, so here they are kind of making fun of creation science. They're making fun of God too. Because he says it right there. Really think about God. They think that animals are a trial run for humans, whereas we Christians, God made animals for us. He let us name them. God made animals for us. He made this world this is our garden, Earth, not the universe. The universe was not made for us. That's what the Bible says. That's for God's glory. And he can throw it out there. And by the way, in the Bible, it says the expanse. He stretched out the universe, stretched out. He placed the stars and moons and stretched them out. He stretched them out. Like 19 times it says stretched out. It doesn't say like he placed it all. It says he stretched it out or whatever. Like an expanse. So it's ever stretching, moving out. That's the redshift. It's how do we know that? There's so many things in the Bible that are amazing like that explain the universe. Like, who knows the way of light in the dwelling of darkness, which is pretty amazing because light travels, but darkness is just the dwelling. It just is the way of light. That's amazing phrasing. Anyway, so this is kind of cool. Anyway, so let me move on. Just lame, but anyway. And this guy's an atheist, and I guess they're both atheists now. But anyway, let's move on. Wow. Okay, so here he says we evolve. Like, he's using the Hugh Ross thing. So I guess they're making fun of Hugh Ross's stretched out creation evolution thing, and they're using that now as an argument against Christianity. He's saying that, what are you? You're apes, and then the mother is an ape, and then now the son is a human, and he's condemnable to hell, but the mother is not and will not go to heaven at all. So, and they're like, yeah, that's messed up about God. I'm like, what? There's nowhere in the Bible. It's not in the Bible at all. And so see, they use this straw man, this false premise, and they just myth upon myth to tickle their own ears, and they're like convincing each other, yeah, God is messed up. When he just made this up, out of whatever with Hugh Ross or whatever. Wow, that is such an ape then gives birth to a human. The human is then the savable one, but the mother is not. Whew. Okay, let's move on. Never happened, by the way. We are not monkeys. We did not come from monkeys. The genetic coding that they have done has been falsified. They claim we were like 97% monkey genetics, the same as monkeys. Now it's 95. Now it's 85. And they look at the chains of DNA code, and they look for the similar parts, and they ignore the dissimilar parts. Oh, there's a similar part. There's a similar part. There's a similar part. We'll just ignore this and this and this. Oh, look, it's 95% accurate. This little part here, that part, this part, and this part, but not this and this and this, but just this part and this part and this part. It's so ridiculous. Monkeys or chimpanzees and gorillas, they don't even recognize music. They don't even recognize music. They don't recognize art. They don't recognize anything like that. They use a stick, right? Ooh, they use tools. Like sometimes they use a stick or whatever. Or sometimes they'll cover themselves in leaves for a shelter. Ooh, so we must have evolved from them because they use tools. Maybe we evolved from termites because they build cities. Termites build cities. We must be termites. That's what I tell kids. Termites farm. They freaking farm. Ants farm. We must have evolved from ants. That is ridiculous, to claim that we come from monkeys because of that, or apes. And when a black man acts like a monkey, black man acts like a gorilla, it's silly. That's silly to me. I can act like a gorilla, monkey, whatever. But it's so hilarious when they're so like, because a black man did not come from a monkey or an ape, just like a white man didn't, or whoever. The evolutionists are so offended by that, a black man acting like a gorilla, because they claim that the gorillas evolved into black people, Africans, that then evolved into white people, and the white people are superior. That's where that comes from evolution. Doesn't come from us Christian Zionists. The black man came from Noah just as the white man came from Noah. And then from Adam, obviously, before that. So we have that is so ridiculous to us. And there's nothing offensive or hatred about it. It's just silly when you say that kids or black kids act like monkeys. To me, it's silly. It's funny. I have a son-in-law who goes like this, and he's black, and he just cracks me up. And he cracks up too. I mean, he goes like this. He goes, yeah. It just cracks me up. It's just so ridiculous, And he loves it, and I love it, and I'm glad that he's not offended by it. I'm not offended by it. We don't care. We don't care what you all think, or the evolutionists. And he loves doing it. I don't do it because I guess I'm not black and evolved from monkeys like he is, which is so ridiculous. And that is their belief. Anyway, don't get me started. All right, let's move on. Okay, I only went like a few seconds. He's all, it seems so arbitrary and unfair. It seems just so unfair. Well, atheism. What is fair about atheism? You could be fair as you want as an atheist, right? You can be as good as you want. Or you could be as unfair and as evil as you want. Why not? Oh, but that's not reasonable. Sure, you can be totally reasonable as an atheist. Or you could be totally unreasonable as an atheist. Why not? I just hate these people. I'm having a bad day now. Why do I watch this stuff? Look at his smug face here. Yeah, I agree with you. Look at that smugness. Yeah. Arbitrarily unfair. God is so arbitrarily unfair. I don't know. He wrote a book about what he believes in, what he's going to do. Do you know that there's no law in the Bible that says God can't murder us all? There's no law in there that says that. There is a law that says you and I can't murder each other. God wants us to not murder babies. Defenseless little babies. God does not want us to murder each other. He doesn't want us to slander each other. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not bear false witness. He doesn't want us to do that to each other. There's no law in there that says God can't murder all of us and end it all. I've read it 5 or 6 times now. Didn't find it. Here's something weird about it, though. He explains why he did it for the flood. He actually explains why. He explains why he did it. He explains why he Sodom and Gomorrah. He explains it. He doesn't have to. There's no law in the Bible that says he has to explain anything. But yet he does anyway. I'm getting pissed off. That's probably why I kind of don't want to do these videos anymore. Just get pissed off. Passionately. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so he just mentions that, in his church, creation science would come and debunk evolution. And he kind of learned it that way through creation scientists. And he's like, yeah, and they're never, and he said, within our lifetime, creation scientists are going to debunk evolution. Well, we have. It has already been debunked. The lies continue, though. So we're going to get to Calvinism here in a minute. But we have debunked it. Creation scientists have debunked evolution everywhere. But they don't care. They don't care. They worship the creature. They worship evolution. They don't care. This guy's saying, oh, they didn't debunk it. We have debunked it over and over. Okay, here, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of how evolution has been debunked. By evolutionists. But not even by creation scientists. That's how easy our work is. But you can't get through to the unbelievers. The wicked. That's why I'm a Calvinist, because of them. Anyway, evolution... Over millions of years, things evolved from a common ancestor over millions and millions of years, slowly evolving over time. The theory of evolution, that's one part of it. And it's not even a theory. A theory has to be provable, disprovable. You have to have parameters. This isn't even a theory. It's a wacko branch of pseudoscience is what it is. It's not even a theory. A theory has to, so here, I'll explain it to you. A theory has to be proven or disproven. It has to have parameters, right? It has to have a disprovable parameter, which evolution has already been disproven. But anyway, creatures evolve over millions of years. Okay, that's the theory of evolution. Then they have punctuated evolution. You know what that is? Yeah, that comes from evolutionists. Oh, perhaps some creatures evolved quickly in a few generations because of, environmental things or whatever. So we have that actually happening. Really interesting. really quickly. Like we see in dogs or goldfish or minnows, we see some punctuated evolution, right? Because they evolve, they adjust to their environment, the salt water, or the brackishness, or the weather changing, or whatever, or they move into a new area and we do see that. That's amazing, and I'll get to that here in a sec. So punctuated evolution, long evolution. Oh, and then some creatures, because we see fossils, we see modern day fossils in blah blah blah. Especially like insects. It's so funny. I read this article about these insects, and they had a whole graph of all the insects, and they were all just all the same insects today. Through millions of year timeline. Anyway, it's just they were just larger earlier. But anyway, so some things don't evolve at all. They don't change at all. They're stasis evolution or whatever it's called. They have things evolve slowly, things evolve quickly, things don't evolve at all. They reach perfection. That is not science. You can't have yes, no, and maybe. Just like climate change, global cooling, global warming. Oh, well, it's climate change. Just whatever is climate change. Everything is climate change. Everything we see in the science, in the evidence, is theory of evolution. Everything, just everything. It's already been debunked, but this guy, he's not going to believe it because I'm a Calvinist. I'm a Calvinist because of this. He is not. We've already told you the truth. We're desperately trying to tell you now for the last 30, 40 years. Evolution has been around for 150 years and has not worked. We have not seen it work. They do not use dogs as their example for evolution. They do not use the Chihuahua from the wolf as their example because a child says that's a dog and that's a dog. We can't brainwash that child to say that's a new evolved species of Chihuahuanism, Chihuahuanasticism, whatever. It's a dog. They don't use dogs. They don't use. I have koi and goldfish, fancy koi and goldfish that came from carp. They don't use that. We have, a couple thousand years worth of breeding, so we know exactly where they came from. They don't use cows. They don't use anything. They don't use fruit flies that they've done thousands of generations of radiation zapping on. They don't use bacteria that they've done 30,000 generations of zapping, radiation on to try to get them to change. Can't get them to change. And a super, what do they call those things when you take antibiotics and then a super bacteria comes into play? It's not a super bacteria. It's just a bacteria that's just immune to that, antibiotic, and it just, it just breeds for a while until they stop using the antibiotic, and then the normal one comes back, and the normal one that the antibiotic goes after, then that one just comes back and gets everyone sick again, and then the super one kind of goes away, and then they go. It's just it's just a cycle. Anyway, still bacteria. Okay, let's move on. I really was wanting to just relax today. Okay. I'm only going every second. I should just play it. He says the age of the universe and the age of the earth and geology. Oh, I'm into geology, and that was inescapable. This is old age. No, it's not. No one even knows how they get this 4 billion Earth age. Like they used a meteor, a rock outside of Earth, to then get this weird number to give us like 5 million, 10. I don't remember. I remember reading it, but I'm just tired of reading this stuff. It gave us a number, but it never 4 billion years old. And remember, it used to be 3 billion. It used to be 2 billion. So that's a lie. That's a complete lie what he's saying there about the Earth being super old. We know that none of the geology that we see is old. Diamonds are not old. You can make those in your lab in a few hours. Zirconiums. Those are real diamonds. They're just not dug out of the earth. Didn't take hundreds of thousands of years to make diamonds. Oil is not old. Oil is oil. You can just make it. The reason it's black is because it's dirty. You can make it under pressure, under heat, around coal. Coal, same thing. You can make it very quickly. If you have a ton of pressure and heat, so it's expensive to make it quickly on our own. It's easier just to dig it out of the earth, and it's massive amounts of it. And that all came from the flood, by the way. Came from the flood. This massive coal and oil is a massive burial of organic material. That's what oil is. Hello? And it's under pressure. It's under pressure, meaning it happened recently, like an air balloon, or just a balloon. When it's tight, it's leaking air because it's under pressure. But the next day, it's soft and gooey and just laying there and not exploding. It's not under pressure anymore because it's been enough time. The oil under the earth is under pressure because it's been there recently. It hasn't all leaked yet, the pressure of it. So it's recent. It's new. We just don't, we're not taught these things. We're not taught these things because if we are taught these things, then you would start to question evolution. The theory, which isn't even a theory. Okay, so he's criticizing answers in Genesis and that he, and I think very naively here, but that, the answers in Genesis have to shape everything based on the Bible. Well, what are we going to shape it on? Hugh Ross, which he kind of made fun of here. Francis Collins, which he's about to bring up. What do we shape it on? We got to shape it on something, because every one of us has a point of view. We are not neutral. This atheist right here has a weird, dumbass point of view. He's a fool. Like God says, you can shape it on that? Hell no, I ain't following this ass. Sorry, I'm getting. And then I get back to my old atheist ways. We have to shape, everything comes from a point of view, comes from a framework, a groundwork of what you do. In the Bible, we are not to bear false witness. So we are not to lie or slander our scientific results. We're not to bear false witness about our scientific results. That's a foundational rule to Christian scientists. When Christians created science, which we did, we created methods to make sure that the science was verifiable, falsifiable. That's what a theory is about. The theory is verifiable and falsifiable. Like you could falsify it based on your parameters of your theory. And if it was falsifiable, then you got to give up the theory and start over again. That's what you have to do in science. You have to create a specific thing. You can't say everything is evolution. It has to be specific. Your thing. Okay, creatures. Like the theory of evolution is ridiculous, but the theory of a common ancestor is a good thing that could be falsified, and we can falsify it. But it's very narrow. You have to make narrow your whatever. So he's just making sort of demeaning the answers to Genesis because we start with the Bible, but you have to start from somewhere. You have to start from God, the truth, the Ten Commandments, or you can start from atheism, which is make up crap whenever you want. And create pseudosciences where you pretend a theory means everything. That's where we're at. We're at paganism and atheism. It's the same thing. They just believe in making up this theory that covers punctuated evolution, slow evolution, no evolution. Let's use fraudulent bones. Let's make Lucy from different pieces and don't tell you. By the way, you can look it up too. I saw an article where 80% plus, it's getting really bad now, like very bad. Most scientific papers are like 80% not even peer reviewed. Peer review is another thing that we Christian scientists did. We have to have peer review, meaning other scientists get to look at your data and they get to peer review it, like do the test themselves. In order to do a theory, you have to create a test to prove it and then others can be able to replicate that or find a way to disprove it if they could. And thusly, most of the stuff that nowadays is not working, like that. And there was even a big story recently about some sort of heart disease or medication based off of one of these papers that was badly peer reviewed, and like 30,000 people did this medication, and finally they looked back at it and saw the results were ridiculous, 50-50 or whatever, didn't even work, and they had to go back and like investigate. I remember reading about that. The science today is getting so quasi pseudoscience because atheists have taken over, co-opted science as their own religion, when Christians are the ones that started science. Because but here's why we started it. There's one God in Jesus. There's no other gods. There's no other gods creating the trees or the moon or controlling anything. Thusly, and the Bible says you can measure, who can measure the mountains and the seas and all that stuff. So we can measure scientifically and not worry about the elf spirits or giant spirits or pagan spirits or whatever. And we know there's laws of gravity is a law. It's a consistency. We know there's consistency in the universe, and that we can study that consistency and expect the same result each time we study it. That comes from the Bible and Christianity, and the Bible says that about the known world, that God created the world to be consistent. And whereas atheism doesn't say that at all, paganism doesn't say that at all. Paganism is like, the Titans destroyed the earth and everything, and then one's now the sun and the one's the moon and one's the, so that's ridiculous. Don't get me started. I'm getting tired of fighting this. All right, where's my mouse? Wow, he said, so he started to look into evolution, and it just felt, like it felt right. He didn't say right, but I could tell that's what he was implying. It just felt, and then he went off. But it's like he did it because it felt right. That's what makes me a Calvinist. People deny God. It feels right to deny God to them. It's in their programming. All right, there's no free will in the Bible, but I will talk about freedom in a sec. Because there's a Calvinist section here coming up right now. Let me get to it. Okay, here I read Francis Collins' book, The Language of God. I'm like, well, did you read Bodie Hodges? Did you read a creation scientist? Any creation scientist? Did you read any hardcore creation scientist book? How come he mentions all these denial of the Bible, and creation and all for evolution? Now, these two guys are Christian, but they're the kind of Christians that says the Bible is in error, and only an atheist or someone seeking to get away from God would want to go to books that push the Bible is in error. So he's not looking. See, Answers in Genesis is the Bible is not in error. That's where they start from. These other guys are starting from, because they both came from the science field and they were taught that the Bible is in error. That's where they're like, okay, we're going to go ahead and compromise the Bible then. He says, Answers in Genesis, but all he knows there is sort of their talking points. He doesn't know he's not mentioning any deep dives like Francis Collins and Hugh Ross, who helped him go. I think he was looking for, because it feels right. It feels right to do this, to get away from God. So I don't know. Maybe he read some hardcore creation science stuff, but he's not saying it, so I don't know. All right, so I like how the atheist goes, oh, it's inexplicable data, right? There's no way to get around that we evolved from monkeys. It's just inexplicable data. Bull crap. God, yes, we have a common creator. All of us do. The animals and us, and we eat animals, so same nutrients that we need as them. Animals eat each other. Animals eat the plants. It's all the same mixture of, the world that we're in. We're all carbon-based. We're all, it's just ridiculous for them to it can't be such that it's got to be evolution then. We've got to have evolved as a common ancestor. Oh, we could have a common creator. Gee, I wonder if any book out there says that we were all created from the same creator and designer. I wonder. It's like... That's why I'm a Calvinist.
Had significance culturally. We wanted to do that from the very beginning.
Okay, I just messed up my space here. Very sad though. This. So he says that he was leaving his faith while he was still in North Carolina before he came out to LA. And he went to his wife to tell her that he was not a Christian anymore, basically. I mean, you can listen to it himself. And that's just depressing to me. Like, wow. Imagine that, man. Just leading your wife away from the faith and your children. That's just like, wow. Because he believes in evolution, because of all of his readings. It's like, would you read the Bible? Just read the Bible. But, that's just, wow. Imagine that, going to your wife and she's a Christian and saying that. I don't know what his wife is doing, or what her belief is, and now and her children's, but that's wow, what a condemnation for the family in that sense. I don't know what the end result of that is. Anyway, let me move on. So he's saying here is his first big domino was that evolution, since he believes in evolution now. And he doesn't really give a great reason. I mean, he brings up Hugh Ross and Francis Collins, who's in Genesis, but the Francis Collins is a Christian theistic evolution, but there's no, I don't know, they just kind of go over like, oh, I feel that this is how this happened, this is how that happened, whatever. He's going to believe what he wants to believe. I'm a Calvinist. God is putting him right where he wants him. But he's saying because of evolution, he's not going to believe in Answers to Genesis. He's not going to believe his Christian leaders. He's not going to believe in any Christian for anything. If they got that wrong, then everything a Christian says is wrong. So yeah, my response to that is I'm a Calvinist, so he can do what he wants. or what he thinks he wants. To me, evolution is an evangelist tool. That's not the right word for that. It's a deconversion tool for atheists. It is definitely that. And I think he mentions, I don't know if it was C.S. Lewis. He mentions reading him. C.S. Lewis, I think, believed in evolution back in the day. But remember this, there was no response to evolutionists back then in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s because we didn't have Christian Science yet. We thought that they were following the science. We know now that even those people were not. They were lying about their experiments and the embryos go through the stages of evolution. They never do that. That was a lie. That was all drawings. They're always drawings. And that's actually a very sad story to me because I was reading Robert E. Howard and how he believed in evolution because he had to, because there was no other option. They were throwing it at us willy-nilly, pushing it hardcore as if it was science, and it wasn't. We didn't know that they could lie, which is a problem in Christianity that we hopefully today realize. And that's a Calvinist thing too. People will lie. They will openly lie. They will deny the truth openly. Why do they deny the truth openly? Because they're written that way. How else can you deny the truth? Okay. Actually, it's interesting. In this cut here, he's not talking about the Calvinism, which is in another video. But I'm just going to go to it right now because he says in the other video, I thought it would be in this one too, but whatever. I think it was the previous video I was watching on the same interview. But he says that Calvinists, he's a moderate Calvinist in a sense, but now he doesn't believe in it because obviously the reasons that I'm going to watch that part. I'm going to go back to the Calvinist part because I thought it was in this video, but it's not. I'll be right back. All right, I had to go to another video, which is actually this video here, where they're talking about this Calvinism sort of thing and cognitive dissonance. So the predestination thing where God decides who's saved and who isn't. I mean, God is sovereign or God is not sovereign, whatever. You decide. You decide that. We'll see if God allows you to decide that. Anyway, point being, so he's like, he's criticizing that, and then the atheist here says, well, gee, how... Oh, I'm sorry, got a text. What was it? Oh, got an image. They're doing some cool stuff. Okay, sorry. Right in the middle of the video. Okay, so that was my gorilla son-in-law. Yeah, how offensive. Okay, so... so he says here, Calvinism... Oh, he's going to the beach. Oh, so the atheist goes, so have you gone to the beach and what? And then hopefully you're going to talk to someone that's going to be saved and not the wicked. No, that's not how Calvinism works. I love how these two non-Calvinists are deciding how's it going to, contemplating how Calvinism works. I go to the beach or I go anywhere and I treat everyone just as God does, loving them, saved or unsaved. That's the pure joy and essence of it. Also, I am not required to convert everyone. See, and I am not required to succeed or fail at converting people. I don't have a scorecard. I cannot convert anybody. I cannot, as a Calvinist, convert you into becoming a Christian. Only God can. I am just the messenger. I am doing the commission. That's the freedom I have. I am not required to convert you, my son or my daughter or my family members. I am not required. Okay, you're a Christian, and then your brother or sister, your son, your daughter becomes an atheist. Is that your fault? Why didn't you convince them? Are you a sinner now because you failed to make them a Christian? Remember, they have free will to choose. Did you not convince them good enough? You know what I mean? Did you not convince them good enough? Why are they now an atheist? Why are they a Democrat? Is it your fault that they're now a Democrat? Because they have free will, why didn't you give them the truth? Who would not accept the truth freely, willfully? The truth. Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. So if Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior and that is the truth, why don't people accept the truth? Oh, because you didn't convince them enough? So it's your fault then. The freedom of Calvinism is that we cannot, even if we give someone like Rhett or Link or this atheist the truth, they're not going to accept it. And that's the freedom in us, that it's not our fault. Because God is going to decide, not us. He's giving us something to do. It's called the Great Commission. Jesus says, Jesus does not need us at all to save anyone on this planet. But here's what Jesus says, and I'm doing my own style here, just to get the point across. Well, if you're going to do something for me, I guess you could go evangelize. You know what I mean? God is giving us something to do because we love him, not because he needs us. And he actually does like to use us, actually, to get the message out. So if we go to the beach and there's who's saved, who isn't, doesn't matter. We preach to everybody as a Calvinist, because we don't know who's saved and who isn't. God could be using us to get to that person, right? God uses this world to get to people. Although he certainly goes, there's certainly many cases of people getting Jesus in their dreams and becoming Christians. So there's certainly a lot of that going on, especially in the Islamic world, because we Christians can't even get in there, thanks to Democrats. So there's that. I guess we should be evangelizing to Muslims here in America, though, a lot harder than we are. But they have an inoculated angry streak in them that Democrats just love. Anyway. All right, let's move on to this Calvinism. They're talking about Calvinism here, and I want to try and get to each of the little points. That's so weird. Rhett uses the planting the seeds. I guess he's using it as in a way. He says, it's not up to me whether they grow or don't grow. That's true. It's up to God. But you plant seeds in certain areas, knowing what's going to happen to them. It's pretty obvious. The analogy there is that you look at where you're planting them. Look at the way you're planting them. That's he doesn't get that. He's saying, it's preordained, so it doesn't matter. Just throw them out there in his criticism of Calvinism. No, as a Calvinist, when you plant seeds amongst people, do it carefully, do it thoughtfully. Don't just go willy-nilly and be an idiot. And don't convert people who are going to get trampled very quickly. Or whatever. You can't convert them. Don't go and make a bunch of Christians willy-nilly who are going to easily get trampled. Do it carefully, do it thoughtfully, do it through the church, do it in the right way, teaching them. Because we do, as a Calvinist, as the chosen, have a quality of our faith. It can be pretty devastating and tragic. It could be very fruitful and wonderful. It could be, starts and stops and ups and downs. And the Bible is trying to tell us to do it carefully so that we can nurture them as opposed to willy-nilly. And so they don't get that, but whatever. I'm not even a theologian. I'm a terrible dude when it comes to the Bible, the verses and all that. I can't remember them, but I get the gist of it all, and I tend to remember that. Although I'm getting older and it's getting weirder now. I'm getting kind of the wife and I are kind of amused at my childlikeness that in old age. Anyway, okay, so he's saying God is an asshole because of predestination, because he created good people and then a lot of wicked people who are going to hell. Doesn't that make God an asshole? Okay, so let's look at it this way. All of these people that are going to hell, what is it? Why are they going to hell? The 10 Commandments. What do the 10 Commandments say? Don't murder your babies. How many of those people are fine with abortion? About every one of them. Murdering babies. About every one of them. I don't know. There's not a pro-life atheist movement. There is one website with a pro-life thing. I found it. One. They don't exist in real life for some reason. There's pictures of them. Yay, we're atheists and pro-life. I've never seen them anywhere do anything. I absolutely believe that was created because there's a realization that there's no atheist pro-lifers. And I've never heard them support any church or help the pro-life movement. I don't know. Never seen them anywhere. Their number is negligible. Now, do I think some atheists have generally good reasoning, good, whatever? Yeah, I like some too. And I even listen to some here and there. Still going to hell. They haven't accepted Jesus Christ. The test here is, can you follow the most perfect laws, all 10 of them? Don't blaspheme God. Don't blaspheme anyone. Do they say, oh, Jesus fucking Christ, or God damn, or do they allow that? Do they write that in their movie scripts or whatever when they're not even a believer? these type of things are breaking the law. Do you steal from anyone? Do you bear false witness against your neighbor? Does the old lady lie about the neighbor and get him arrested, or lie about it being a fetus? All these people are going to hell because they can't follow the perfect 10 commandments, and God knows it. God already knows. He also knows that those that are chosen will fail too, but he also knows we are saddened and want to change, want to be more like him. We want to go towards the 10 commandments. We want to be better and better, and we want to stop and inform others about the 10 commandments and stop doing these things. Sexuality, sexually exploiting others, sexual deviancy. We want to stop, and we want to say it's a sin. We want to say it's a sin. So the vast majority of people do that stuff, or willingly do it, or allow it. They allow things that God said are sins. So God is like testing us in a sense. He's actually challenging you, atheists, to actually follow these 10 commandments. Like, okay, remember the first commandment doesn't say you have to worship God. It says you cannot worship any other God. That's all it says. It doesn't say you have to worship him. You shall not put any other gods before me. So he's challenging you. But inevitably, I think you're going to pick a God, whatever it is. Democrats, Obama, creation, evolution. You're gonna worship something, and it's gonna be such that you blindly, willingly follow it, to lie and slander and deceive about God to others. If you're gonna lie about the Creator created, God is life. He created everything. If you're gonna deny, why do you get to have heaven? Why do you get to go to heaven? If you're gonna deny God, who created you and who holds your breath, and yet you're defiant and you think you're better than that and you deserve, I get to go to heaven. I've decided I get to go to heaven when I die. Oh, excuse me, Jesus, excuse me. I'm going to heaven. Where do you get that from? You're living on borrowed time. So am I. Do you think God's an asshole for doing that? I think God's wonderful. See, you think he's an asshole. I think he's my creator, and I love him. So yeah, why don't you're going to go to hell? Where else do you think you're going to go when you die? To nothing? If you go to nothing, and we all go to nothing, then Hitler was right. What he did was right, and he got away with it. And he's resting in peace now, or he doesn't have to suffer anymore. If you believe that we're going to nothing and get nothing, Hitler was right. And every one of us who's now, the rest of you, mini Hitlers, and that's a terrible analogy, but you remember the people today have supported abortion, and that has killed way more than Hitler ever did. It's 1 million a year here in America, over 1 million a year of babies are being killed. So that's since 1945, or since the Roe versus Wade. It's exploded and never let up. So that's 80 years of 80 million. So, and you all support it. You all vote for it. You're in that school now, in that camp. So you've got that. And that's only in America. Not the rest of the world is Europe, China, Russia, everywhere. Abortion. India. God is saying, stop it. Stop killing babies. And what do? We're killing babies. So I don't know what you think is, who do you think is innocent? And by the way, the kingdom of God is for children are the kingdom of God, or whatever. There's some saying like that. And we are, based on the Bible, if you're a child who never got to choose, you go to heaven. So there must be at least 80 million Americans going to heaven already, since 1960s. So there's that. So I'm assuming, we do have an answer, Christians. It's called heaven. We have an answer to the suffering of children. Heaven, going to heaven. God says that heaven and God are the children. Children are the something of God. Like they get to go automatically straight to heaven. You don't need to go through a journey on earth. I already love you and know you're good. You're coming to heaven automatically. You don't even need to be with those parents because they're terrible anyway. That mother is a murderer, by the way. You're coming home to me. You're coming home to me now. That's our answer. You don't have an answer for that. Your answer is, oh, it's just a bag of cells. It doesn't care. It doesn't even feel pain. It doesn't feel its limbs being split apart and torn asunder. It's just a baby. It doesn't feel that. 80 million is what you're. God's an asshole. We killed 80 million. I think we kill more babies than people die of old age when God calls them to heaven. Who's the killer now? All right, let me finish this and I'll be done because I'm getting annoyed. All right, so these two here at the end of this video is like, I don't understand all this stuff. And Rhett is saying, when he was younger, he'll just let God answer it when he's confused by it all. He'll let God answer it when he gets there. And then him like, yeah, there's a lot of Christians that believe that too. I got something that answers it. Right here. It's called the Bible. It already answers it. It already answers everything. This is the sheepskin legacy standard Bible. Nice. I need to go to church and walk around with this thing. Just to be arrogant and show off. Pride. During Pride Month, I need to go around with this thing. Anyway, so when I get to heaven, I'll ask God. You don't need to ask him when you get to heaven. Well, one, you can pray to him now. You can read his Bible, and I would read it several times because every time I read it, it's like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh yeah. You can study creation science and apologetics. It's wonderful. It's a joyful thing. That's for you Christians, not for atheists. I'm not confused. This is a matrix. We're living in a matrix. The Bible says it's a matrix. The Bible says God created this with his word. He created everything with his word. So he's telling us the truth. We live in a matrix. Some of us are good. We are mixed in amongst the wicked. Let the games begin. And like I say, in the game of life, roll holy dice. But yes, we have to have wicked moving parts. We got demons, and we got the unsaved, the wicked amongst us, and their family members too. And it is not your fault if your son or daughter rejects God. It is not your fault. You, as a Calvinist, must love them. You must love everyone, believers to unbelievers, including Democrats and Muslims. You must love them as a Calvinist, as predestined, and live that way. We need to subdue evil. That's our we're not God, we're not vengeance, but we do need to subdue evil so that we can live a peaceful life until the end. But inevitably this world is going to go pretty evil and Jesus will then come. So that's how that works. But as a Calvinist, you love everybody. God loves everyone, including the wicked. Right? Let me use an analogy of Darth Vader. We all know Darth Vader is the villain, but we all love him. Yeah. Sort of. God made the wicked. He knows they're wicked. He knows they're going to hell. He still loves them. Would he like to save them? It says in the Bible, God would like to save everyone. But that implies he doesn't. It doesn't say God is going to save everyone in the Bible. I don't remember the verse, but you know what I'm talking about. God would love to save everyone in the Bible, or would love to see everyone saved. But what does that mean? That means he's not, and it implies that there are those that are unsavable, or they're not going to be saved. And that's the way it is. And God has created the wicked for us to live amongst, so that we can see how much we truly love God or not. The chosen, or whatever, the predestined. How do I know I'm predestined? I think just only because I'm just continually fascinated by the Lord. That's all I got. I'm still an asshole, but that's all I got. I must be a Christian because I just keep, I gave up Dungeons and Dragons and I'm not doing I'm not going for the easy way out in RPGs and role-playing games. I'm doing for the Lord. So I guess it's just in what you're doing. So yeah, this whole Rhett thing gets under my skin because of he was a Christian or not. I don't know. I can't really tell, but why didn't he use this platform for Christianity? Oh, I see why. It makes total sense now. And then he just goes around trying to debunk Christianity in his sort of miasma of like, it's just not working. It didn't work. There's proof it didn't work. Well, your proof is wrong. Your proof is a lie. And anyway, okay, so that's my video. I'm just tired. I'm trying to chill. just relax and just do stuff around the house and whatever, chill for a while, figure out what I'm doing, and work on Alfred 6. All right, game of life, everybody. Roll holy dice.